Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Conversations of Agile Change. I am coming to you this episode with the rather fabulous Agile All-Star that is Sue Danner. Sue, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. It's fabulous to be here.
It's fabulous to have you. And as the listeners may tell from the dulcet tones of Sue's accent there, Sue's one of our New Zealand alumni who has recently done one of the greatest change management efforts of all, which is moving countries, and has moved to Melbourne, Victoria. I said Sue's an Agile All-Star. I think Sue has one of the awards of probably doing, I think, every single one of our courses in the program, and has been with us since we started in 2019. So it's really, I can't actually believe we haven't had you as a guest, Sue. Um, so let's start off, bit of a thought provoker. If you had to describe your approach to change in three words, what would they be?
In three words, I would say elevate, enable, and empower.
Ooh, that's three E's. Does that make it easy? I can't believe I just brought a pun into this. What a shocking way to start a podcast episode. Elevate, enable, and what did you say? What was the third?
Empower.
Empower.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that a lot. And from what I know of you, that really, really fits. That really fits. I think one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on this podcast episode was you've done some really interesting work. And for me, what's interesting about it is it's typically been in areas that are not necessarily sexy, that's not necessarily areas that people gravitate to, and they're not necessarily areas that we think about when we think about agility, right? So what I mean by that is you've done work in regulatory, non-profit, government kind of sectors rather. And I was really interested to kind of explore with you, what does agility mean, or in this context. And part of what's behind that is one of the questions we often get when we're talking about agile change is, can we use agile change if we're not working in technology, if we're not working in product related change, if we're not, our organization is purely waterfall. And I always say the answer is, of course, it's probably more necessary in that environment, but I feel like you're going to take it a little step further. So, can you set the scene for us around regulatory change? I think about it as risk averse, compliance heavy. Tell us a little bit about the environments that you've worked in and what that means from a change perspective.
Yeah, so that's a great question. So often, my background, I started off at the age of 16 in business improvement and compliance.
At 16,
So
did you say?
yes,
At 16.
yes.
You are truly a lifer. Okay.
Well, and I do have to mention, I had the most amazing boss, the best first boss you could ever have. She was a fiery Irish woman with a beautiful head of red curly hair, and came to work in black jeans and a t-shirt. She was exceptional. Yeah, and just
Amazing.
allowed me to explore and experiment, and basically gave me the run of things, which was, it set me up so well.
Yeah.
But to your question, so regulatory change, often I feel that regulatory change is approached, that word just comes into play a lot. And it's just a process change. So that often comes from that business focus. We are worried about our risk, and so we need to prevent that risk from happening. Yeah.
Mhm.
And so it's a change in a process box, and people get quite contained in that space. Now, it's not that process doesn't matter, because it does matter, but it's people. If you put people first, if you shift that, then what you do is you shift from this transactional response into a response that is it enables you to see more opportunities.
Mhm.
So it's getting up on the balcony and taking the opportunity with this regulatory change to have a look at the landscape and say, okay, so this might be a paragraph that's changing in a piece of legislation. Is that just a little process change, or is there more to it? And do we have an opportunity here? Does that make sense?
Yeah, okay. So the seemingly small change
Mm.
is, and get back to your three E's, is the enabler for an opportunity to relook at the overall system of change opportunities there. Is
Yeah,
that what you're saying?
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Mm.
Follow-up question on that then. Um, how is that rare? Do people actually look for the I mean, I hear that that's what you do, but when you work in regulatory change, is there an expectation that you will just do this process change and then you come in and
Yes,
you want to get up on the balcony and look? Does that threaten people or do they take the
yeah,
opportunity?
it really does. It can be quite challenging. So that's where the leader attitudes are key. They really are. So
Mm.
I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
I One of the coolest pieces of work that I did was working with a regional council. So in the Australian context, that would be, I understand, equivalent to your state. So they deal with
Hmm.
environmental things in the region, and like water and sustainability, etc. So they were having challenges in their consent process, their resource consent process, and they were getting complaints. So my remit was, we want to reduce the complaints, and we want a different way of doing this. We don't have the resources to spend a lot of time on this. So we want you to come in and bring some fresh thinking. So what we did was, I remember the first meeting, and it was all of the team leaders across that regulatory change pathway. And there was a lot of, I think one person understood what I was trying to do. So there was a lot of pushback. But what I did with them is I allowed them to choose a small group of customers and said, let's do a pilot. Let's test this first before we do anything big. So experiment.
Hmm.
And you choose you identify the customer group that's appropriate. So that gave them some control as well. And then we walked through a journey map process. So that was where I needed the leader buy-in and support to release their people for 2 days. I said,
Hmm.
give me 2 days and let's see what
Yeah.
happens. Now, the transformation was fantastic. So we took this end-to-end process, and the business had been focused on these complaints are coming because we just need to get the consent out to these people faster.
Hmm.
What came out was the customer, there was a particular point where the customer just wanted the council to let them know
Hmm.
that this was approved so they could do their planning, because the farmers have this whole planning process in place, right?
Yeah.
And that's all they were interested in. They're just like, you just need to communicate with me here so I can book my people in and get the work happening, yeah, and ready,
Yeah.
rather than wait until I get a piece of paper in the mail.
Yeah.
And it was a small thing. It was just communicate at this point in the process. Whereas
Wow.
the business had a completely different perspective, and it was so simple.
Amazing. Amazing.
Yeah.
So beautiful example of agile principles, in terms of making sure it's small testing and learning. With that, where else have you seen that agile principles or tools play out really well in a compliance kind of environment?
So let's see, it was with the national regulatory body,
Hmm.
trying not to name.
Hmm.
And there was a significant change that had been planned and known, and it was coming up on them quite quickly. So a change strategy had been developed, and but there was a lot of noise coming from the business, coming from the operations teams who were on the ground dealing with businesses on a day-to-day process. Yeah, they were the inspectors that would go out to these businesses, and as you can imagine, relational skills very, very high on their requirements. So they were coming back saying, no, this is not going to, the plan that you've got in place is not going to help. It's going to create more risk than what it's solving.
Mm-hmm.
So I got in and dug underneath with them, and we pulled out tools like very simple tools like Think, Feel, Do.
Yep.
Yeah, but also the what do you call it? The futurescape,
Yep.
future
Futureспective.
perspective.
Yep. Yep.
That's
Yep.
it. Yes, that one. That was great. That
Yeah.
paired with Think, Feel, Do is so powerful and so simple. So, futureспective, for those who don't know, is basically morphing into the future, and you can ask two kinds of perspectives. You can either ask, imagine that this change has landed and it has been successful, or imagine this change has landed and it has not been successful. And you really need to read your people to figure out where you need to go. In this case, there was such a lot of negativity in the room. I went with, it has not been successful. So
Mm-hmm.
bring your black hat and your cynicism, and
Let's
let's have a,
celebrate.
yeah,
Celebrate the negativity. Welcome it as a guest.
yeah, big therapy session, and just fantastic.
Yeah.
And these are people who, this is why I love working with operations teams.
Mm-hmm.
They know what they're doing. They're with the customer every single day. They understand what's needed. Yeah. So the end result was really good because we unearthed this risk that for this change to be successful, we needed these resources to support it. And there was a 2-year ramp up from someone coming into the organisation to being able to operate independently. So that then feeds back to business planning.
Yeah.
And enables people to have the right conversations. But it
Yeah.
also meant that the existing folk felt heard
Yeah.
as well. Yeah.
Mm. I'm interested in earlier you said, the real work is getting the leaders to release their people to, and again, you're working in regulatory context, you're working with leaders who are very high control needs, right? There are material consequences to them losing control or not having control and something going poorly in regulatory areas. What's your secret sauce of engaging with senior leaders and getting them to release that control?
Yes. Now that's a great question. So it changes every time. You do need to adapt, but the underlying theme is that I find the influences. So for the consent process change that I talked about, the head of the call centre and support services, he was my key champion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he was my key influencer. So I developed a strong relationship with him, and he then helped me with the relationships with the other key leaders that I needed to get on board as well.
Mm.
So it's, you're coming in as someone they don't know.
Mm.
And so you've got to tap into that trust network in some way, shape, or form.
Mm.
Within the regulatory change, where it was a remediation for the change strategy,
Mm-hmm.
it was the operational specialists. And they were the ones that helped me influence up
Yep.
because they already had the trust with their leaders. Yeah.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
it depends. It's that informal network that is
Hmm.
key. Mm.
Interesting. Interesting. So, alongside compliance, space, regulatory reform, you've also been quite successful in using agile change approaches and mindset in the nonprofit sector. And I find this one interesting as well because often, working in nonprofits can be really, really challenging. You've got to do more with less, fewer resources. And on one level, that says to me, perfect for agile change, made for that sector. But in the next, I also appreciate how difficult that can be. Can you sort of paint the picture of what doing change or delivering change or leading change is like in the nonprofit sector for you?
Yeah. So 100% it is built for Agile. And saying in New Zealand is we do things on the smell of an oily rag.
Mhm.
So do a lot with less. And that is very true for the non-profit sector. So they tend to come with high levels of empathy
Mhm.
because they are tend to be very purpose-driven people. They want to contribute in some way, shape, or form. They tend to be very adaptive and resourceful again because of the nature of the beast. So when you're thinking about progress over perfection, for example,
Yep.
it's yeah, that's exactly what they're doing. They're just taking action
Yep.
every day, yeah, and taking steps forward. Um, some of the challenges can be because it is very passion driven,
Mhm.
is people releasing their control on what they think or how they think this should be done. That can
Mhm.
be some of the challenges. Mm.
Mm. Mm. How would you describe change leadership in nonprofit settings?
Mm. Uh, highly adaptive is
Hmm.
the words that come to mind. Yeah. Um, leading change in that sector takes very takes a very empathetic leader, but it takes leaders who are willing to be kind versus nice. That
Can,
makes sense.
can you expand on that? I think that's a really important point. Let's unpack that one a bit
Yeah.
from the world of Sue.
So being kind to someone is giving them clear boundaries,
Mhm.
helping them understand what's needed. So bringing clarity versus being nice. You are, I guess, pandering to the person instead. So you're not actually helping them. You're not helping them grow in
Mhm.
that context. Being kind means yes, we are a non-profit. Yes, we come in with all of these aspirations, but let's be very clear on what our purpose is, and this is what it looks like in reality for us.
Mm.
You have to hold that clarity for people because the boundaries can get quite blurred very
Yeah.
easily. Mm.
Mm. And I think my experience in nonprofits is often there's a greater sense of, and this may be to what you're talking about, the passion and the values, but it's almost like we're family
Yeah.
more, yeah, we're family, we're allergic to corporate ethos, and families get messy. Like,
Oh yeah.
there's a different standard of behavior accepted in families than there is in a corporate setting,
Mm. Yeah,
which,
most definitely. And I actually think it's dangerous to bring that language in.
tell me more.
Uh, well, because of that, because there's a whole lot of emotional weight
Mm,
behind we are family.
mm,
We can come together as a group with shared interests
Mhm.
and shared values and shared purpose. Um, doesn't mean we need to skip down the street holding hands together, because you and I might work together well,
Yeah.
but we might not gel in a personal context, and that's okay.
Yeah.
It has to be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any particular examples stand out for you in your experience of when you've been able to mobilize people with tight resources and timeframes, and how have you gone about it?
Mm. Yes, there's a few. Uh, uh, One of them would be, this was very interesting. So I was working with a non-profit where we had an education arm and a consulting arm. So the consulting arm supported the funding
Hmm.
for the education arm. And the national regulatory body at the time was targeting small to medium enterprises and for employment contracts. They were doing a national sweep to make sure everyone had an employment contract in place. It was probably at the time of the Employment Contracts Act coming into play, the shift in legislation. So the space I was working was very rural, very remote, and everything had been done on a handshake. Everyone
Mm.
knew their neighbour. It was very old school
Yeah.
and really lovely. Um, so this business, one of these businesses I was working with, had no contracts in place. They were all verbal, and they had been since he'd been operating for 20 plus years. So we needed to quickly get employment contracts in place. And so you can imagine some of the perceptions that might come into play in doing that exercise,
Mm.
especially the location was the heart of the labour movement in New Zealand. Coming in with, corporate kind of attitudes was not going to work.
Yeah.
So talking about influences, the first thing we did was brought in the union representatives.
I thought you were
Absolute
going to say the first thing you did was you went down to the pub.
Yeah, well, that too.
So you brought in the union influences, yeah, or the union
Yeah,
reps. Yep.
yeah. And they knew their people. And they were very good at what they did. So we said we were transparent. Here is the issue. The fines were significant if you didn't have them in place, and here is the time frame. And it was very tight.
Mm.
So we had 2 weeks to show that we had the contract ready. They didn't need to be signed,
Mhm.
but we had the engagement process underway. We had 2 weeks to show that, and thanks to the help of these people, we achieved that.
Mhm.
We achieved it with there was no negativity. There was no, what do we call it? Resistance. I really don't
Yes.
like that word. Uh, Response. The response was very, very good.
Yeah.
And that was also because we were very open about what was happening. It was a small business, and you can do that in small business as well. Mm. So,
So, so you just swapped in response for resistance. For
yes.
those listening in at the moment aren't familiar with that concept, do you want to share a little bit more on why you don't like the term resistance and you used response?
Yes, so in the areas that I've worked in, resistance is weaponized a lot. And I mean, you would have seen this when a word is not understood, the deeper meaning behind a word is not understood, it can be weaponized quite easily. So uh, if someone is saying, I don't like this change, and they're pushing against you, then they are resisting, and it puts the blame onto the person themselves. Yeah. As opposed to, what's the response that's happening here? So, for example, those specialists in the regulatory body who were saying, no, there's a huge risk here. We need to talk about this. That could be seen as those are people who just aren't accepting the change and they're being difficult. Or, as we chose to see it,
Mhm.
these are specialists who are highly experienced and know our customers, and they have something important to say. How about we listen to them? And you shift it to something that is annoying and irritating to something that informs and helps your design.
Beautifully explained. I love it. I love it. And for anyone who is familiar with the Agile Change Playbook and what we teach in our courses, so on point, right? It's been part of what we've spoken about for a long time. And yet, surprisingly, I like your phrase around weaponizing resistance because I still see it time and time again. And if you look at job ads at the moment, I know at the time of recording this, you're on the market. A lot of them are still looking for change practitioners who will put together a resistance plan, and it's so old school and not helpful. But that's okay. That's why we've got people like you going out and lifting the level of understanding. Thank you for your service. Um, let's switch gear a bit. So I mentioned you've moved countries, right? And from New Zealand to Australia, thinking about your own change, what agile principles did you find yourself using?
So this is a great question. So empathy was a big one.
Yep.
So through the migration process, I've been dealing with a lot of different providers,
Yep.
and I had a very contrasting experience within the space of one day where there was a telecommunications provider that I worked with and a training provider that I worked with to, just do whatever I needed to do to shift services to the new country. Now, it was very clear that the telecommunications provider had not set up their staff well to succeed. The person was nervous, didn't understand what I was saying, had to keep checking with her supervisor. And so engaging empathy, noticing that, engaging empathy, which in those moments can be quite challenging because you've got this huge list that you need to get done. It's easy to go, I'm so busy, why don't you know this, and persecute the
Mhm.
person,
Mhm.
or empathy,
Mhm.
help her through the process.
Yep.
Just, yeah, release those expectations and help her through the process. Versus the training provider, where I said to them what I needed, and they came back within minutes and said, we've anticipated this, no worries, we've got you. This is what you do. Step 1, 2, 3, 4, done. Easy.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
huge difference.
And I suspect part of that is, we get back to you talked about your journey map, your customer journey maps in your previous example. And it's really the power of organizations who have actually anticipated all of their customers' needs and have mapped those journeys in advance, right? Yeah, interesting.
And
Okay.
anticipated those needs, like you talk about data informed decision making,
Yes.
anticipating those needs from all of the information that's coming in. And it's not just on dashboards.
Yep.
So
Yep.
that journey map process, there
Yes.
was one controversial person who joined that process,
Yep.
and she was one of the telephonists
Uh-huh.
who deals with customers every day.
Yep.
She
Yep.
she 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 talks to them every day, and she knew
Yep.
exactly
Yeah.
what was going on. You know,
Yeah.
and so you've got to be really careful not to close yourself off,
Mm-hmm.
and really test that hierarchical attitude,
Yep. Yep.
and involve anyone who has that connection point because they're the ones that are going to bring those gold nuggets. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So you've just talked about data-informed decision making, one of our agile change capabilities. Continuous engagement in your move from New Zealand to Australia. What did that look like?
Oh, continuous engagement. Um, well, I won't lie, it's been a bit challenging. Yeah. Uh, I think, oh God, that's actually a hard one to answer. Um, I'm a bit stuck on that one.
I'm going to answer it for
Yeah.
you because I knew you were thinking about the move for several months, and I suspect other people had as well. I think you were actually, I think it's a blind spot for you because it's what you do. I think you are continuously
Mm.
engaging. And so you had signaled quite some time ago to people that you were interested in a move. Remember, you came over here and you did some interviews and we had a coffee. So I
Yeah,
would
that's
say I'm not
true.
the only person. It's actually
Yes.
it's the way you exist in life, Sue, is you are
Yeah.
continuously engaging.
But I just
So
didn't think about it because it's just a natural space. Yeah,
it,
thank you. Okay.
okay, good. I'm going to test you on the third one now. Visual and transparent communication. What did that look like?
Well, up in front of me, I have a
Yeah.
Kanban board.
A personal Kanban board for moving?
Yes, and
What's
it has migrate my three streams at the moment:
yeah.
migration, income, and elevate.
Okay.
So migration, all of the activities, because it's very interesting when you're moving.
Yes.
Uh, how many you can't do this until you do that. The interdependencies of
Yes.
everything are
Yeah.
huge, and there's nowhere that has them mapped out very well.
Yeah.
This is a
Interesting.
discovery process. Yeah, I feel
Oh,
for people. I have a new appreciation.
might there be a white paper coming from Sue Danner on the change management of moving countries? We've got a
Yeah,
few people who've
possibly.
done that, so I reckon you could actually crowdsource wisdom of the crowd on moving countries. Um,
Yeah.
what did you have to let go of to make the move work smoothly? We often talk about that in the space of agility to we talk about drop your tools or letting go to learn. What did letting go of look like on your move?
Or, well, letting go of, well, not only I purged my entire household. And I had people saying, oh, but you can sell this, or why aren't you taking it with you?
Mm.
Light, nimble, agile.
Yep,
That's what I wanted, easy.
yep,
And it was great because what I let go of benefited other people. So that's
yeah.
good. That's you
Hmm.
pay it forward. But also letting go of my concept of what home life looks like as well. Because I've shifted into, I have some very generous friends who've given me a room at their
Yep,
place,
yep.
and it's their family home.
Yeah, okay.
So I've had to let go of what home life looks like
Yep,
for me.
yep.
I've lived on my own for quite some time. So
Wow.
that's quite a big shift, yes.
That's a massive shift.
Yeah. And of course, you don't get inductions into people's homes. You sort of have to discover it as you go. And it really does. It brings in quite a few of those principles. So, failure seeking, for example, it's like
Yeah,
acknowledging that you are actually going to do something that's going to annoy someone
yeah,
because this has been their habit, and suddenly they have
yeah,
a new person in their space as
yeah,
well. So, you've got
yeah,
it. So, empathy for that too.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm.
Amazing.
And a bit of
So
self compassion.
beautiful, beautiful. I'm here to support that. So when you think about the retrospective of your move, based on the retrospective, what would you advise somebody else thinking of moving countries? What would be your top three learning lessons that you take from the retrospective?
Oh, um, you're not going to get it perfect.
Hmm.
You absolutely are not. You're going to discover things along the way. So, having those strategies
Hmm.
for self compassion
Yep.
is key. And I think let go of it. You've got to let go of expectations. It's a lot of it is mindset stuff.
Yeah.
There's a lot of the transactional things I could talk
Yep.
about, but I think
Yeah.
more importantly, it's mindset,
Yeah.
and really embracing that uncertainty, because you're going to
Yeah.
be sitting in that space for quite some time. Yeah, so give yourself grace. Mm.
Give yourself grace. That sounds lovely to me. Um, one more question, and then we might wrap this up. I'm kind of interested in, and again, you've done all of our courses and have been so diligent in using things as you've been going. What would be your one piece of advice to someone who is starting their agile change journey?
Mm. Uh, it would be choose something simple.
Mhm.
Start small, start simple, and experiment. So when I started applying your principles, practices, and tools, I was in highly regulated environments,
Yeah.
and I went too hard, too fast, and I scared people. It was too much. People didn't know what I was talking about. I was very enthusiastic, but so start small. So something like the Think, Feel, Do framework is
Yeah.
really easy to start with,
Yeah.
and you'd be surprised at how well it demonstrates for people um, uh, a different perspective. How let me say that again. How well it opens up different
Mhm.
perspectives for people. And I know that when I first used that, I got these moments from
Yeah.
leaders. Oh, we hadn't thought about how people feel.
Yeah.
And then we have guiding lights of, we want our people to feel confident, for example, in a building move.
Yeah.
Great, that's part of our target.
Hmm.
Yeah, and that
Hmm.
becomes part of your feedback loop. Where are you sitting with that?
How are we going to measure it? Yep.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
nice and easy.
That is a awesome piece of advice, and I can again totally relate to that. I I think that, and it's probably something about when people are new to this space and they get really excited, they can alienate and scare people. I think that's a really good example. In the enthusiasm, you forget that what we're doing is so new to a lot of people that it can actually distance yourself rather than the opposite, which is what it should do, right? The engagement. And so that's such good advice, and I do appreciate it.
I might
Susanna,
just
at the
add a
time of
little.
recording,
Oh,
sorry, you're
I
going to
just
say?
had a thought. I had a
Yeah.
thought. Channel, get your groups around you so you can channel that enthusiasm. So because you've got to have that outlet, because it really does. You do get excited, and you've
Mm.
got to have that outlet. So stand those up around you.
I think that again, that's really wise counsel, because when I think back
Yeah.
to the environments and the programs and the projects where I've been really free to go hard from an agile change perspective, it's so much fun. Like it makes change management fun again. Like, and you can lose the fun in certain parts of your career in this space, right? It becomes a bit of a grind, and that can actually boost the fun. So that's awesome. Alrighty, at the time of recording, you are on the market. What does great look like in a new role or an organization? How can the listeners or the viewers help you with your future perspective?
Mm, good question. What does great look like? So, well, I love being close to operational teams. Um, I'm really not worried about people have been asking me about my career objectives, etc. Look, I'm just passionate about working directly with operational teams and helping them elevate. So anything that enables me to do that, I'm very, very happy to do. And the other thing I would say is I would love to do more not-for-profit work over here. You have a fantastic not-for-profit sector as well. So I really want to give back, and that's one of my targets. Whether I'm doing it paid or unpaid, it actually doesn't matter.
Fabulous, fabulous. And you are volunteering at the moment for Rethink Change, if I recall correctly. So the summit in Melbourne coming up in November, you've been busy behind the scenes. So thank you for your service in that. We appreciate you. Sudana, it has been a joy and a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time today on this episode.
Thank you so much for having me.